Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Mid-South Wrestling Review series for the 31st of um, July. March. There we go. 19 and 84. Um, and to think that I think it's March 31st, 85 is WrestleMania. So 1 year later, and WrestleMania is a thing. But not in Mid South. Obviously, Mid South though is cooking with gas at the behest of everybody who will listen. As the Midnight Express is here, the Rock and Roll Express is here. We are building towards the last Stampede, which is a pretty big deal, and for the most part, Cowboy Bill Watts coming out of retirement, probably one of the bigger things that will ever happen in the Mid South area. I don't know how many times he does that. I think he does it twice because I remember him coming out with the Freebirds, although I've never seen the match, and I do think, well, I know that he comes out with the Midnight Express. So that would be twice. I don't know if the Freebirds thing was in 1980 or whether he does this in like 85, 86. I'm not sure. But we're gonna learn the journey together. Basically, Bill Watts says he retired of his own volition. He will get revenge on um, the need for a partner. He chooses to partner up with the Junkyard Dog. Basically, a 3-on-2 affair is what we're going to have here. The slap of Jim Cornette obviously is what brought all this about. Cornette and the Midnight Express kick him in, knock him down, and also managed to go at Bill Watts with the tennis racket quite a number of times. Magnum TA finally confronts Mr. Wrestling 2 over all the issues they've had over the last little while. Of course, Wrestling 2, you were North American champion at the time, and he is basically saying that there is absolutely nobody that he's worried about. But the Bill Watts revenge thing going into the last Stampede, a pretty big deal. I think the last Stampede's in May, if I remember right. Anyway, Magnum makes his way out and offers to fight with the Mr. Wrestling 2 finally. He says he basically turned the other cheek, and now Wrestling 2 in a promo begs off, and meanwhile TA basically begs to get the fight on. So interesting dynamic that there's a beg off. I assume that they will meet at the last Stampede, but Wrestling 2 doesn't want anything to do with this confrontation. We kind of continue the battle, and you know, Magnum kind of calls him a coward a little bit. Pretty safe bet that he actually is one. Says he knew that Wrestling 2 wasn't going to do the right thing, and he's turned the other cheek multiple times, and he wants a shot at Wrestling 2 eventually. This is basically a highlight show, so I almost wonder if the last Stampede isn't closer than I think. I mean, Nikolai Volkov and Hacksaw Duggan up next, and ultimately Duggan and Volkov after the attempted hanging by Volkov. This is a brawl that goes pretty nuts. Duggan right after Volkov pretty hard and fast for several minutes here. Duggan tries to bully the big man around, both men over 300 pounds, and it is clear that Duggan is not impressed with Nikolai's previous behaviors or anything of the sort. He hits the flying football tackle. Nikolai goes down in a heap, and needless to say, Duggan with some kicks, punches, and the like, nothing that he can't handle. But at the same time, a masked guy comes out, Darsaw comes out, or Khrushchev, and the unfortunate nature of, I assume that's the Super Destroyer in there, the red and whatnot mask, but the whole locker room empties out, and everybody brawling around. Nothing gets settled between Duggan and Volkov by any stretch of the imagination, so they'll have to do battle somewhere in the future. Whole locker room emptying out, and chaos ensues. Terry Taylor and Butch Reed up next, and really, this is mainly a highlight program. There's about 10 minutes remaining in the program and another match. So we know that that means nothing's really going to get settled between these two either. Of course, the previous week we saw Butch Reed managing to fight almost off the air um, with Terry Taylor. Reed comes out with his arm in a sling, basically says he cannot compete. This is, I guess, pursuant to the angle or the match between the two of them last week, and Reed trying to swerve the referee. It's clear that it's a swerve, but Reed manages to use, I think, a slapjack or some other weapon in the sling itself, and he is laying out Terry Taylor aggressively with the weapon, shots to the midsection, trying to break the ribs and cause internal bleeding and all sorts of things for Taylor. Meanwhile, the Rock and Roll Express makes their way out, and everybody is checking on him. Masa Saito and Larry Santana will close the program. Obviously, not a terribly, wonderful match here by any stretch of the imagination. Couple of minutes remaining. Saito is not receiving the same level of push that he was before. Santana, not related to Tito, not related to Carlos, not related to any of the other Santanas in the sport at the time, and a up and over the knee and some shots by Saito and or Soto, and ultimately a pile driver from Masa, who is still trying to find his way, short and stout, and ready to knock you out, I guess is what you'd consider him. But anyway, some hard shots, chops, kicks, and punches. Saito with a diving headbutt and trying to get a victory, and does with a double chop. 1, 2, 3, and away we go there. We will close the month of March, hoping to have April and May, maybe even June up tomorrow. Don't know what the rest of the night holds, but thank you for joining us. We've got over 100 editions of the Mid-South Series, over 320 of the World Class Series. Going to do Smoky Mountain eventually. Going to do Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling and Crockett. So much more. We'll be back with more action right after this.